Moving on into Chapter 14, Pipe Networks. We're going to one of our last stages of this class and learning about one more design element. We'll have our 7 files to work on like usual in Moodle in Chapter 14 here, and the same amount of files in the completed form to check your work as usual. Let's start by going into the book. Here we are. And we're going to just begin with a little intro on what we call gravity pipe networks in this case. So what are gravity pipe networks? Well, in this part of the design, we're talking mostly from the larger design process of, in some ways, sewer or sanitary water or stormwater management. Lots of land development creates roads and various impervious surfaces from more absorbent surfaces, and then things like rain as they fall into the ground. They need to have a network of pipes and various structures and pipes to take the water away from the new designed, developed impervious surfaces that moves faster and further than it did before the rainfall. So big part of gravity pipe networks is managing rainfall, rain events, or aka stormwater management as we say here. And another part, a big common thread or another way of looking at gravity pipe networks is for sanitary sewer. For sewer piping, they are very common to take away sewer and wastewater of that nature as well in residences and commercial developments and all kinds of stuff. Similar to all the other previous chapters, we're going to first learn about what is this new Civil 3D feature we're learning about called pipe networks. Then we're going to learn how to create them in a couple of ways. And the third thing, we're going to learn how to start doing some edits on pipe networks. So we have gravity networks and pressure networks. So we'll talk about that a little more soon here. And I'll take you to the City of Missoula website and we'll talk a little bit about large networks. Civil 3D has gravity pipe networks, which are just called pipe networks, as we'll keep looking soon here, and pressure pipe networks, which are very similar, but they have different needs and they're designed so much differently in many ways that the approach to designing and constructing them is also quite different. So we'll cover that, and we're going to get into a little bit more why. So let me open up the first file. I have Civil 3D 2022 open, and I have one industry file we'll look into as well. Quite a few files open here, and this is one way you could cascade through them. I'm going to go to the first one, creating a pipe network. My computer might be a little slow because I have a lot of processes running at once here, but I will try to move where I can and speed things up. So we're back to the 3 viewport views. We're going to be looking at the plan view, our profile view, which is going to be a big part of our pipe networks. How they overlay in the vertical, that's a big critical part of pipe networks, is where you see them on the profile view in the vertical. And in all of our files, we'll have a 3D view to the lower right hand side to show the Civil 3D objects in a 3D type view. Now, if you're having speed issues, it might be best sometimes to go to view and turn this just to one viewport configuration. New to 2022, you can also drag a window. I could drag this file like this over and off to another screen, so it can be a standalone item. That's something noted in newer versions of CAD. That's nice, so you can compare files next to each other. I'll drop it back in here in its proper spot for the moment. So let me go into some industry examples, but first let's talk about pipe networks. So I'm going to go to a job I did, a couple of them here. This one we'll just keep it simple, and I have one little sheet of a sewer service. This is a plan view and a profile view, very common that they go on simultaneous sheets to show the horizontal and vertical on top of each other. This was done for a very certain agency in a national park, but this is a small little pipe network. So the main goal is to draw a pipe in the planimetric overhead view here, which is also a Civil 3D object in 3D, and also to show it in a profile view like this. This is a certain style of a pressure pipe network. There's probably some manual drafting on top of it to show these valves a very specific way. That there's always a little mix of some manual drafting in using Civil 3D objects depending on how advanced your styles are. This one probably has some blocks in it to make these gate valves look really ornate, but this will be more in Chapter 15 pressure pipe networks. But this is a good overview of a quick little pipe network, a small one, just a service here of the water fire system. This is a pressure pipe network, but they all kind of have some similarities in this way. So this is a plan and profile view, finished sheet showing some ability what we're doing with pipe networks. This is in a very small system. Let me go to another drawing here. Hold tight. This one is a little bit larger. This was for a water pipe connection here. I don't have a good sewer one handy, but it's a very similar principle to gravity pipe networks. I connected here to the city sewer, or excuse me, water. We ran it at different bends and various spots, and down here to a terminus where we put a fire hydrant on this boulevard frontage. And of course we have our plan view and all various options and notes, and we have a profile view down here of a very different style for a different type of firm that plots differently, and it's overlaid onto this profile view with a little bit of bands here with elevations and stations, and elevations in the vertical and the Y axis, and various notes we put on here. Some of them manual, some of them are Civil 3D labels, and then our pipe network showing here shows on this profile view. This is one of the more handy things with pipe networks, is the ability to superimpose them and add them to profile views, so you can do your horizontal or your top edits. You can do your vertical edits side by side on a plan profile sheet. So that's getting a little deeper into pipe networks. Let's go to the City of Missoula website here, and I have just kind of showing some utilities. I just have most things turned off except for sanitary sewer. So this is where all of our public sewer piping is in this city, and it's in a GIS integrated site here through the city using ArcGIS. But this is a very interesting database. We click on these pipes and various things will come up saying what year, what type of pipe is active, what project, what its diameter and material is, its slope and stuff like this, and its overall length. I'll go back to the legend here and layers, and let's go into here. Let's turn on some manholes. So we have a ton of manholes in this city, and these are a big component of pipe network design. We'll get into the main tenets, the most important things about pipe network design here shortly, which is on the first couple pages of your Chapter 14 text. But this is just showing gravity. Your main goal, is to let gravity flow, and you have manholes and other structures in between. We have some other types of tanks and stuff. Some step tanks, which is a septic tank that hooks up to a public gravity sewer. Lift stations, which is a pressurized sewer pipe that brings sewage uphill or with pressure. And I just have on now just our gravity sewer pipes and mains and manholes, or as Civil 3D calls things like manholes, they're pipe structures and pipes here for our large city. So we're going to be editing lots of things like this. In our city, we're here. We don't have as much for stormwater piping. We have some of it. We have a lot of what they're called standalone sumps, or dry wells, some people call them, but we have some. This is a stormwater, so this carries storm rainwater runoff in underground pipes in this type of pipe network. We also have water pipe networks. We'll get into this more. I just turned just these layers on to show pressurized water pipes in the city and various appurtenances, or also fittings. Both are in Chapter 15 soon. These are fire hydrants, so when we click on some of these things, they have data and metadata as well as in this case, these are like pipe structures. And then we have our pipes here. We click on these, and various things come up about what size and years it was built and various other metadata. So these are some overall just big views of a city's pipe networks underground. They get quite complex, and they serve different needs. So let's just go back to turning on the sewer pipes, or the sanitary sewer is what they're called most favorably in industry, and we'll leave it at that. So let's go back, with that being said, to the text. And some of the most important things I want to talk about in pipe design, there's 6 or 7, and some are on 274 and some are on 275. There's a few things, so I'll go over them quickly. Pipes in your network need to be sloped enough for water to flow through them. It sounds easier said than done. We'll get on that. They need to flow a certain way to work. They need to be at not too steep of slopes sometimes, depending on the design needs, and not too shallow of slopes, which is even more critical, so things actually flow. One thing I've ran into with some subdivisions is not making pipes have a high enough minimum slope. If it's too close to zero for gravity, that sometimes the contractor or there's other things unforeseen when it gets built, it's hard to maintain that. So the slope of the pipes is very critical. The pipes must be large enough to allow whatever their design amount of water or sewage or rainwater. That's very critical. The pipes must be far enough underground is the third thing, to avoid being damaged by freezing, depending on what climate and area you're in. That is very critical, so they can have less maintenance and be more maintenance free in their lifetime without freezing. The pipes must not be too far underground in certain circumstances on number 4, which is a very good one, that they're very cost prohibitive to dig very deep or to construct. That's something to consider. Structures on pipe networks must be provided in certain spots that allow access for maintenance, for ability to fix things, for the ability to maintain and add on to the pipe network in the future. That's a consideration in design as well. Just like on this picture of the city of Missoula, for example, sewer manholes are in very strategic locations to do maintenance, to provide design better flows, to isolate areas of the pipe network, so you have them minimum distances from each other, or at critical intersections where two pipe networks meet, perhaps. So that is a critical design feature. If I go back here, in the case of stormwater and rain runoff, structures must be provided in various low spots or ideal spots to allow the surface water to enter into the pipes. So that's different with stormwater. It needs to enter into the pipes from a source, surface side on the earth, or in the natural environment. They need to flow into them, whereas sewer pipes are generally connected to exactly what they're serving, like a house or something. So those would have catch basins or inlets. Now pipes, there's a few more things to explore. It discusses more on pipe networks here in 275. 3 things really additionally to those main design tenets of pipe networks. They have to be not too deep, but not too shallow. So that sounds kind of weird. If they're too deep, like I've said before, they're cost prohibitive at times and difficult to build. If they're too shallow, they might freeze. They might have other things. They might conflict with other utilities. That's a very critical thing as well. Pipe networks must logically connect to all existing structures when they're being built, when they're being designed with existing structures in mind. How do they connect into them? Where do they connect? What elevations do they need to connect in? That's very critical. And going with the last part, they don't have any of the major conflicts they have to cross, like let's say gas lines or electrical utilities, or maybe an underground canal, or all kinds of stuff. Maybe a area where the soil's bad, or various other things. That is a very big consideration, is what conflicts. And that's where this profile view comes big in, to see what could potentially be conflicting. We can add the various things to the vertical, to the profile view, to see that. So in general, gravity pipe networks, the water needs to flow downhill. That's the simplest way I'll put it. And that sounds easier said than done. It sounds like duh. That's obvious, but in order to get it to do that, it's not as easy as it looks taken just by saying make water flow downhill. When you introduce all these design requirements that I just said, these last 7 or 8, they make it sometimes harder than you think to make the pipes flow downhill at the right rate in this right spot, and to overall fit into whatever design constraints you have. Make the water go downhill, but you always have a lot of things to look out to that would impede that. So with that all being said, we'll jump into pipe networks a little more here. We'll go into the tool space area of prospector area of tool space and look at where they reside. We'll look at our networks part list that resides inherent to each AutoCAD drawing, like blocks do, or Civil 3D styles. These are done by probably a high-level CAD technician or manager to set up these basically libraries of structures and pipes for pipe networks and called what's called a parts list. These are what you build your pipe networks from, and we'll have certain ones the book provides for us. First things first, we're going to learn how to make these pipe networks. So we're going to do the simpler one. We're going to create one from an object. We'll go to our first drawing. Called creating pipe networks from objects. And in the left viewport, we'll go to the beginning of Jordan Court, and we have looks like a little polyline in here for a sanitary sewer. Look at it's the green heavy polyline here with the sand line type. Now we're just going to go back to our home tab where most of our creation of Civil 3D objects are, right? We're going to go to a new area here. We'll go to pipe network, and we're going to create pipe network from an object in this case. So we have a polyline or various other things like polylines or 2D or 3D or feature lines or alignments can all be used as the object in question to make the pipe network. We're going to pick that option, verb, and now pick our noun, our object. We're going to pick this polyline, left data click. I'm going to accept that direction. This basically says, hey, you look for a little arrow like this, it's kind of hard to see. That says it's going to generally make the direction flow this way in the sense of downhill this way. Or you could reverse it to the opposite direction. We're going to accept the flow direction to go in this arrow's direction, which is from left to right in this case. You can see the arrow, very hard to see right there, but there it is. Okay. It's going to take a minute. It's making the pipe network. There we have our dialog box coming up, and we're going to name the network. This is critical to do, especially the more busy a drawing gets, how many networks you have in it. We're going to pick some various things for the network parts list in this case. We're going to say sanitary sewer parts list. Let's use that. We're going to say which surface name do we want it to. Basically, this is the surface that will be used to automatically set up the top elevations of our structures. That's kind of critical. It actually helps get our basically, here it is, our structures to be set in the relatively correct elevation to begin designing. We'll pick that. We'll accept all these other things here. These all kind of come into play here. Alignment name, that alignment that it is basically referencing the pipe network. Sometimes they go in different directions, sometimes they go parallel. Depending on what your alignment is. We're just going to pick Jordan Court, the center line of that Jordan Court road. We'll check the box next to erase existing entity. This will erase the polyline we have created and make it only into a pipe network of pipes and structures. I sometimes will leave this to not erase. I might use that polyline again for if I feel like I'm going to use it for any other reason, maybe soon, offsets or other designs. I might not erase it. And that's the same with any Civil 3D objects you create by object. If you feel like you're going to use it again, maybe don't do this. Lastly, we could go to making which elevation to go to. This isn't that important right now at this time, but just note, I'll keep it on center line, but this is the different areas of a pipe. This is just good pipe nomenclature. Outside top, this is the crown of the pipe, the inner top, the center line is the very middle, the invert. This is one of our most key elevations of pipe design. This is where the water is going to be sitting on, basically, on the bottom inside of the pipe. And it's going to be, this is a very critical elevation to know, called an invert elevation, where, especially with gravity, that is a very critical elevation to hold, maintain, and base off of, if the gravity is to be going the way you want the gravity to go. And lastly, outside bottom of a pipe. We'll just keep this on center line, turn this off, hit OK. It'll take a minute to make the pipe network. It made it. You can see that my line type changed a little bit. Now when I select it, it is truly a Civil 3D entity now. It is a pipe. So I have that selected, that one pipe. It went from a polyline to a pipe. It made the network. Basically on the left viewport, it wants you to pan southward until you can see Madison Lane. We'll do that in a second. Basically, also in this bottom right viewport, be very careful with this one. Easy to get crashes. You can see it made some pipe networks here off in space. They have certain elevations. There's the pipe. structure is in the middle here. Like I said, Civil 3D might be called Civil 3D, but it works really clunkily in 3D, I gotta say, a lot of times. So it made a structure here and some pipes going on either side. This is in the true 3D mode, showing an eccentric manhole, a very common design of manholes. So a person could climb down a ladder into them, and maintenance or whoever or whatever can go down them easier, usually a person. That's where the name manhole comes from. And concentric ones, it's as simple as this. I'll go to Google quick. It's basically the top cone of a manhole, which are either concentric or eccentric. Concentric means the top access hole is right over the center of the manhole. Using a ladder, you have to put a ladder in the access. And in eccentric, the top axis is placed to one side of the manhole on an offset, where permanent rungs could be provided for accessing. So if you look at an image of these two types of manholes, here would be your difference. This is probably a real quick, easy one. You can see the eccentric off to the side and the concentric in the middle. So this would be a eccentric, this would be concentric. So you could put rungs here, a little ladder to climb down on the side, or whoever to access it. This is off to one side, eccentric, and this is concentric in the middle. So depending on your needs, these sometimes are different. They're oftentimes precast concrete, bought from a local source or an area in the region to easily transport these large objects to job sites. They come in various different shapes. Manholes, here's more of a cylindrical shape all the way up. A lot of them have an eccentric top like this. Here's one with a few inlets and outlets. Just to give you a quick heads up on what are we talking about with pipe structures with gravity networks. So we go back here, you can kind of see it looks like that in the 3D view. Let's go back to the left viewport though. And once my drawing speeds up a little bit, we're going to go zoom down to Madison Lane. Now I've said this before, using different viewports like this within one drawing can be a really great way to design. We're looking at the horizontal, the vertical, and also a true 3D type of view of our objects. In this case, I'm going to turn mine back to one viewport for speed. On the view tab, back to one. And it should overtake with just this view. Let's go down to Madison Lane here. All right. We're going to make another pipe network from an object. This polyline we have here. We'll go back to home, to pipe network. Create pipe network from an object. Pick that verb. Now let's pick the noun, the thing. Select that polyline. Let's see here. We'll accept the flow direction by hitting enter or clicking OK here. And in this case, we're going to call this one the network sanitary 2, which is going to be the next little network. And we're going to have sanitary sewer once again as our parts list. And keeping the surface here to road FG to set the tops of our structures. Let's select Madison Lane here for our alignment association. And we'll say erase existing entity as well. Hit OK. Right. That pipe network is being made. You can see the objects appear now, and if you hover over one of them, or we crossbox over one, these points here are automatically created, these structures. So these are our pipe network structures we can see here in our Civil 3D properties, and we have pipes here. So our polyline is transformed into a Civil 3D object of various entities. So we got that going, and this runs down this way. We're going to do the one last step. We'll do one more pipe network, and we're going to go to create once again from object. We're going to pick this sewer. That's fine if we'll just say flow direction that way for now. This one's going to be called sanitary 3. And we're going to do similar options. We'll keep 8-inch pipe is fine for now. We'll say road FG is our home base surface, and also Madison Lane is our home base alignment. We'll erase it once again, hit OK. That'll make our final pipe network. So we got 3 little networks that all are going to work together here is the main thing. So we made by object. We've converted everything that was our initial polyline into sanitary sewer pipes and structures into and now we have 3 pipe networks populated in tool space prospector. Lower this. 3 networks we made here of various pipes and structures within them. So this is where they reside in tool space. Also clickable graphically, as we'll learn here shortly. So what if you don't have the design already sketched? You want more control of the design as you go. Sometimes this is the method, the easier method. Sometimes you want control as you go to design it directly in Civil 3D. Well, that's where creating a pipe network by layout comes as a good choice. So you can have more control as you build it at the beginning. And we're going to go here to see that in the creating pipe network by layout. And that's a new editing area, which will be under pipe network, and it'll be here, pipe network creation tools. So once again, these are your 2 main options for making gravity sewer networks, by creating them with the Civil 3D functions or by creating them from an AutoCAD object. We'll learn similar things in these 2 with pressure pipe networks as well in chapter 15. So I'm going to do the same thing on this file. We'll just let it go. I might bring it down to 1 viewport again. So on page 280, we're going to get on with creating a pipe network by layout. So let's go back to the Home tab and go to pipe network creation tools, and that'll open a new dialog box of tools. And in this case, we have to name it first and do a few things before we can get our pipe network editing tools. We'll call it Storm 1. This time we're going to pick the parts list in Civil 3D called Storm Sewer. And we're going to pick the surface name of Road FG for baseline for our structures. We're going to pick the alignment of Jordan Court as our home base alignment. And that's it for now. We're not going to worry about pipe and structure labels at this time. So let me hit OK. And then our network layout tools appear to start doing designing of structures and pipes, or structures and pipes at the same time. Your parts are populated here. Which network you're on is here. It's surface connected and alignment connected. It's parts list. So these are the 4 main things: which network, which surfaces it's getting designed in accordance to, which alignment is it associated with, which parts list is it occupying, and which parts inside do you want to add, and then which parts and pipes. These are the insertion tools. So let's start with getting into this. This is essentially the second way to make gravity or pressure pipe networks, is 1 step at a time through Civil 3D, not from an object. So this is our alternative method with a little more control. We're going to go to Jordan Court. It's wanting me to specify a structure insertion point. You can see on my heads up prompt, or aka dynamic input, depending on who's talking. We're going to go to about station 550 on Jordan Court, and we're looking for these little red dots. Let me turn my O-snaps on. Let me see which ones I have on. Okay, looks like I have enough for my usage. Endpoint, midpoint, node, quadrant. Let's see. Before we place our first structure, let's make sure we pick which one we want first. So we're going to go here and do this. And if I could find it, rectangular junction structure, NF. And we have here a curb inlet. It's our structure. And we're going to pick a type of pipe. We'll do concrete pipe in this case. A thicker pipe that can take more abuse and load on top of it. We'll do 15-inch concrete pipes. These are all pre-built out parts lists, okay? These take some time to build out for a company that hasn't done it yet, but they're well worth it. Pick that. So we have our structure and pipe identified before we're going to add them. And we'll do this here. Well, we haven't added anything yet. So basically, the biggest thing is make sure you have your object snap of center on somewhere. Okay, we're going to snap to the center of this circle. We're going to start building our pipe network. On the east side of the road, now on the west side of the road, click there. We're making our storm water piping with structures at each junction. We're going to pan northward for our third structure insertion point, and we're going to go to two red circles here, which is in the low point of the road. We're going to pick the one to the south of the road first. Going on to the next one. Okay. Now to the next one after that. Up here, pick the center. Let me shift right click to pick a one-time object snap. Center, see if I can kick it in the butt. There we go. And I've inserted several structures and pipes now. I did have these nice spots to help me locate them, which is handy with the book to have those. We would not always have that in a real world drawing. So along the lines, I should have changed my pipe diameter up before I picked this fourth one, but that's fine. Just for instructional purposes, we get the gist of it. But before I go to the next one, let me do at least that. So this should have been an 18-inch pipe in here, but I did not do that step. And we'll continue on to the northwest. Before we click, though, to this next red circle to the northwest, we're going to change the pipe structure to cylindrical junction structure NF. And pick that. Cylindrical junction structure NF with a storm manhole. We're going to do 24-inch concrete pipe this time. And let's click this circle in the western corner of the common area. That adds a slightly different structure and pipe. We're going one structure and pipe at a time. And then we're going to go to one last thing. We're going to choose a different structure to end here on this last circle. And we're going to choose rectangular winged head wall for 24-inch. We're going to pick the center to produce that. And now we have a slightly different structure here at the end. I'm going to hit escape to escape my running command of creating by pipe network by layout. My CAD's a little bit slow because I got a lot open right now. And I made a different structure and a different pipe for a couple different choices as I went along. So that wing wall structure at the end works for the end because that's where outflows. I changed this structure to a closed lid manhole. And we have different structures, curb inlet boxes down here. So this is a pretty accurate representation of what you might do. Now these pipes, they have different symbology and styles that drive their appearance. These gravity pipes, right? Same with these structures. So like everything in Civil 3D. So you can see I have it selected here in the top view. It's also selected here in the 3D view. I'm not going to muddle around with the 3D view. It's a little bit slow. But we can see the outlay of our structures and pipes. That's the end of the second part of this chapter. We're going to go to the third critical part, which is adding these pipe networks we just made into a profile view. So that is the next phase. We get them in the vertical here. We'll go into the next drawing that progresses on. And really, we're drawing these in the plan view, these pipe networks underground and various things. One of the more key parts is to get them imposed onto a profile view so you can further your design and dial it in. We're going to learn some quick commands to do just that. We can use the command draw parts in profile view, it's called. We can draw single pieces of a network or an entire network onto a profile view, depending on our needs. We're going to get right into that. And let's go to the storm manhole here on the western end. Let's see which one. I'm going to pick the object here, the noun, before doing the action. You can go up many times the opposite way. Pick the action first and then the noun. But in this case, I'm going to pick the noun before the action. So pick the object, structure, pipe structure, and I have some new options up here in my contextual ribbon. I'm going to go to this one, draw parts in profile. Okay. Now I have the one structure selected. I want to go, it's now asking me to select profile view. So always when you're in a new command, pay attention to your heads up prompts or your command bar prompts telling you the next step. So let's click the grid lines of the profile view of Jordan Court. Let me click in this viewport. Let me make sure I'm on Jordan Court. Yes, this is it. So I just need to simply click somewhere the profile view. It will add this manhole now to the view. Okay. There it is. It was a little slow, like my drawings have been with all the resources I got going. So there it added the same structure that is here in plan view and also here in profile view. So it added just that structure, which is pretty cool. Now we can analyze it in the vertical. Basically, we're going to add more of them. So I'm going to grab all of them. Honestly, I'm going to go a little off the script on this one. You might not, it didn't really instruct you to add these structures and pipes, so I'm going to just see how it looks. I'm curious. Grab more pipes. You can use this isolate objects and hide objects to isolate more quickly isolate Civil 3D objects along with AutoCAD objects. That might be a quicker way to select a really complex network that's snaky and has hundreds of vertices and pipes and structures to pick. Ours is not that big, so we're just going to manually do it instead of isolating things to do it quicker. Basically, to do our selection setting quicker, selecting what we want. In this case, we'll just go with the flow of this manual. Pick. And I got almost all of them. Let me just grab all of them. Let's just do this all in one step instead of 2 or 3 separate steps. And some of these are going to look kind of weird because these parts and pipes and structures we're picking, we apply them to this profile view. This profile view follows along the center line of this alignment, keep in mind, okay? So when we superimpose these these structures and pipes, they're with respect to the alignment. So these ones here in the end, they're going to show as like a little bit of a blob. They're perpendicular like this, so it's just going to be one structure. We'll see here in a second. So I have them all selected. I'm going to draw them once again in the parts of profile view. I'm going to go to this viewport. I'm going to select the profile view. In this case, by just selecting one of its grid lines, it'll think for a minute and add them. So this one I added here kind of looks a little zany, and right here it just shows it kind of in an odd way. You can see it's just with respect to the alignment. So you can take these off the profile view just by picking them and deleting them. They don't delete them in plan view, just off the profile. So let me delete that off. It's kind of impeding my visual. But the book mainly wants to just show you added this early part of the network here. So that's all there is to that, to add them to profile views. We'll go to 285 and we're going to start doing some editing. A few ways to edit gravity pipe networks. We see with structures, we have a few of them. So the square grip, it changes the location of the structure without changing its rotational value. Okay, it's circular grip in plan view. These are very representative. They're the ones we just did too. This will rotate your structure to wherever you desire in its plan view from the top view. Structures have different grips in the profile view orientation. This grip you can drag. It's an inverted or upside down triangle in either direction. This you can pull and change its elevation in the profile view. The same with the bottom one as well. We're highlighting one at a time. This midpoint grip right here in plan view, you can change the diameter of the pipe with that really quickly. So that's kind of nice. It keeps it dynamically moving diameter, and there's other ways to get to that too, but that's just a nice thing to use. Grips. We usually learn how to use the Civil 3D grips first. If you haven't noticed, here's my file fixed. I was having some technical issues with my Adobe. Further on the grips, this one with the pipe in plan view, the square grip to move the pipe to a new location without changing its angle and slope. So this square grip in the middle, not the triangular one to change its diameter. The end points would move the location on either end. These square grips here and here, while keeping the other end fixed. You can move one at a time. In the profile view at the same time, the elevation would remain unchanged. You would have to go to the profile view to edit that in this way. Okay. Now we also have triangular grips in the plan view. Those grips you can quickly grab and change the length of the pipe in either direction. It holds it collinear in the same line, and it basically maintains the angle. So those are handy. And we have some grips in the profile view. This is our way now. Once we've moved it in the horizontal in the plan view with this square grip, for example, we'll have to come in here and update its elevation to what we need it to be, because this will maintain the elevation while changing it in the horizontal XY location on the earth. The last grip is the pipe midpoint. That's a square grip in the middle, which this grip would change the elevation of the pipe basically without changing its slope. So it kind of shifts it up or down in elevation, but maintains the same slope angle, downhill or uphill, while it does that, which is pretty cool. It doesn't affect the location of the pipe in plan view. So we're going to get used to pipe networks, looking back and forth between plan view and profile view. That's a very critical aspect of them. So let's get into editing them on 287 using grips. I'm going to backpedal to my drawings in Civil 3D 2022, editing pipe networks now. And once again, you could turn off to one viewport. I sometimes recommend it, like I've said in the past, to expedite drawing speed. We're going to go right to the pipe in the pipe network by station 550 on Jordan Court that we created here. And this is our home base for now. As you see, when you click it, you see certain grips that we just talked about. In the plan view and in the profile view, when you click the pipe, you see different grips. Okay. First of all, it wants us to grab the structure and click both inlets. Let's see, right here. Right here. So we have both selected, but we can manipulate both at once, or one at a time. So this one, we're going to go to the one to the east here, and we're going to select the round grip. I'll hover a little closer so I can do that. And we're going to basically just rotate while I'm having some issues getting it to do anything. There we go. Hover on that grip. It's a little slow. I'll rotate. We'll do that again. Just to give you an idea, I don't have to get it perfect. While we're still selected here, I'm going to click the square grip on the west inlet. Basically, the middle one here. This will rotate. Excuse me. Pick a stretch point. I think how I interpret the book saying it is pick the pipe rather than the inlet on this side and move this square grip, which is I don't really understand what they're trying to say here, so just do your best to interpret this. It almost sounds like they say pull this pipe a little more into the inlet, like so. Is kind of what it sounds like to me, but that doesn't change anything. We can move the pipe a little bit like that. That's kind of what it sounds like they're saying. We're just doing some various little grip edits is all. If you don't have it on, have your dynamic input on here. That helps you to move things, add numbers to it numerically. Let's click the triangular grip in the midpoint of the pipe here. You can change the diameter of the pipe with that. Okay. That got a little thicker. Let's see if we can do that surgically now. I'm going to turn my view to one viewport to speed my drawing up again. Okay. Sometimes you got to turn off this hatching crap in the background. It can just constantly want to be selected as you're trying to hover on here. It's one of my pet peeves of AutoCAD amongst many things. I'm going to freeze this layer with lay freeze. I'm going to freeze off this hatching. Otherwise, it just is a nuisance and it always wants to be selected. They did a little more surgically. They pulled this grip and they set a number numerically into, you got to make sure your dynamic input's on. I just pulled it, and now you can do it surgically too and type in a number. So that's 1.5 feet, so 18 inches. You can also change it in various other ways. You can see the inner diameter here is 18 inches now. You can check some of the stats of the pipe in here. Its slope and invert elevations and width or diameter. And by step 8, it wants us to go to the bottom right, man. Viewport, I turned that off for speed issues. But basically, it wants us to go to this manual hole up here near the west corner of the common area. And you could have selected it in that 3D view. You can also select it here in plan view, like so. It's a pipe network structure. So I have it selected there. And it's basically saying, hey, we can move it in this plan view. You could also do it in the 3D. That's what they were also saying. This is, we're going to do it in the top view. We'll move this, pick here, make sure your OSNAP has center turned on. So I have the Civil 3D pipe structure selected. I'm going to do the shift plus right click method and just pick center for one operation. Hovers, we got to get the center to show. There we go. I moved the pipe network to my more favorable curb location is all I did there. And move on from that. And now it wants us to do a quick little edit in the profile view of the same pipes. We'll go over here. It says grab the pipe furthest to the left. So that would be this big one. And we're looking at the different grips. So remember, this moves its elevation without changing its slope, so it keeps the same angle. These ones move it in the elevation sense and change its slope, basically, to say it quickest. We're going to pick the bottom diamond-shaped grip on the left side of the pipe, which is here. Okay. Hover close to it. That helps. I'm having a little issue of AutoCAD recognizing it quickly. Hover on it. Pull that down. You can pick it to somewhere graphically, or since I'm moving it, and we have to have dynamic input on, which we do, you can type in 180. See if that worked. Type it in here in the command box. There we go. I typed in 180 and it went there. So you can see it lines up on the bottom inverted elevation here with 180. So I just typed in 180. It was kind of weird. I wasn't seeing my dynamic input when I did that, so just be wary of that. You might need to go check it after if you weren't sure if it took. Now we're going to do some grip editing to the structure. So let's hit escape to clear all of our selections. And now let's pick this structure in the pipe structure in the profile view. Okay, it's picked, and I have a triangular grip here, and that can move the structure's bottom sump area to where you need or desire. So if you move this and you hover on it, it'll slide it up in this direction, but it won't let you go any closer than this pipe than you can. So the red comes in basically, the red dash line appears. So the sump elevation of the structure is raised a little bit, but it won't allow the sump to be placed above the pipe because the default in Civil 3D, this structure needs to be lower than the pipe. It can't go above it. They need to connect. So it will only allow you to go to a certain distance to where the pipe comes in here on our structure of our manhole. So that is a good default setting. It helps you from moving them basically anywhere. It kind of takes some of the error out. So yeah, that's as close as you can get the structure and the pipe together there. We're going to move on to pipe editing tools. Our next way to edit after grips on the 5th part of this chapter. Move on to that file. We have a few overall network editing tools. So we can swap parts out. On this page here, we're looking at 288. So switch one part with another part, whether it's a structure or a pipe. Disconnect a part from a pipe from a structure, basically. Lets you connect it to a different part or move it independently of other parts once it's disconnected. They're not interlinked, kind of like these parts were interlinked, they were connected. So this structure, why it was set, wouldn't let you go up a certain height, it's because it was connected to this pipe and there's rules that wouldn't let it do that. You can connect parts back to structures, so connects a pipe to a structure once again. You can split pipe networks, chop them up into fragmented pieces, or you can bring them back by merging them. Take fragmented pieces, say we have several pipe networks in our drawing, and we want them to be combined. So those are the main tools. We'll go into the 5th drawing here, editing pipe networks using editing tools. It says for us to pretty much pick any pipe or pipe structure of this storm we want to enable our contextual ribbon to come up. This is really all we're going to do there. And we're going to go to the network layout tools toolbar. But first, before we do that, we need to say edit pipe network, which is right here. You can do this in the prospector by right clicking as well. So it's going to take whatever network it's in and let us apply some editing tools to it. We're going to pick cylindrical junction structure in F, storm manhole variety. We're going to go to what type of edit we're going to make, and oops, let's bring that back. Pick a pipe, edit pipe network. I was having some errors getting these options to show up, which I'm familiar with, and to disconnect and edit and reverse things, but I had to go, I found, into here, into my surface association, and make sure I had something selected. When I selected my surface of road FG, here with OK, it kicked these commands in the butt and woke them up, basically. So you might have to fiddle with that. I was having some issues. Maybe I say EG. So these were now an option. So check that out. Could be a glitch I'm having between versions. So great. Now we're going to look for the black triangle to the right of this pipe drop down list, we're going to say we want structures only. So this is saying we're going to insert structures or pipes or both, depending on what we have selected here, which pipe and which structure. Okay. In this case, we're going to say structures. Make sure your OSNAP is now turned off. You can click it here or hit F3, which is my old personal favorite of mine. Nothing is really cooperating here for me. AutoCAD is awesomely fast sometimes. Hit F3. That did it. Okay. Now you could do this in this viewport, the 3D viewport, or you could do it in the plan view. I would suggest to do it in this one, these 3D ones. Until AutoCAD gets its act together, they aren't very, they're very demanding to move around at a good speed. So let's look around here. It says add. We're looking for a place basically to specify the structure insertion point. If you can't see that with my dynamic input here, as I hover around, it keeps highlighting new things. When you hover somewhere and just hold and do nothing in Civil 3D, it shows a lot of related objects like alignments and surfaces and stuff that highlight. It just kind of gives you what's underneath your cursor. But we're going to go to the midpoint of this pipe at 240 here, and we're going to click close to this. And when you see that icon, that means the structure is going to break the two pipes and insert itself. That icon's good to see that. Click left data, click there. That structure has been inserted. If you see those icons with the tan color, that means it will connect the pipe in the structures automatically. That's a good thing. You usually want that in this case. Let's hit escape to clear the current command. Give it a minute, and we're going to pick the newly made structure we have here. The closed lid storm manhole. It is picked. We have a couple grips, one to move it, one to rotate it. And all we're going to do here is move it to a location. So we're going to move this square grip here, pick it, and we're going to move it to, let's see, where does it want us to go? To the center of the red circle located near Jordan Station, which is right here. So I don't think that's exactly what was intended, but I did move it. Let me go back to turning my viewports off to 1. I shouldn't have added it there, so let me undo that. We can practice this again. Control Z a few times. Or undo up here. Alright, got it back to our origin point. In this case, let's add in the same structure again. Pick structures only in this case. Let me go somewhere nearish the middle of this pipe. Okay, let's just pick midpoint, that's fine. And it'll connect it automatically. Those tan icons show that. Let's hit escape. Let's move it so it looks more realistic by picking the storm manhole, picking the center square grip, and let's do a shift right click to get our one-time OSNAP. We'll go to center. Oops. Some issues. Getting it to go in a speedy fashion. All right, let's had enough of this. Let's go back to one viewport once again. AutoCAD outthinking itself as usual. We'll pick storm manhole. It is slow. Hover on there. Pick. Center object snapped, O-snap, or check, make sure it's on. There we go. It's in its proper location. So what if we want a pipe to change, for example, that I did the wrong size or whatever, or type? I'm going to click the pipe that enters the new manhole from the south, which is this one. Click the pipe first. I'm going to click the noun and then get the verb. I'm going to do that direction this time instead of the opposite. Now with the pipe selected, my pipe network's contextual ribbon options come up. There's quite a few. We're going to learn how to just swap the part out now. I'm going to click swap part. And then I'm going to pick which part I want to swap it with. It's a 15-inch concrete pipe. That's why that one highlighted first. I want to swap it to an 18-inch, basically. Say OK. We're going to do the same thing for the pipe that exits the new manhole to the north. Okay. Zoom into it. I'm going to pick this pipe, do the same thing. I'm going to swap the part or the pipe, same, to an 18-inch, which it is now done. I've changed the size of the parts and the location of the manhole structure. And I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to close the network tools toolbar down for now. And I'm just going to click one of the sanitary sewer pipes in the drawing. So one of the green pipes, the sewer pipes. Let's click just one pipe will do, or structure. And let me get my pipe networks of this individual network contextual ribbon opening up because of that. So I have the network queued up with is sanitary here, of course. But when I go to merge networks, I want to merge this sanitary sewer with another one. I have several I could do it with. In this case, it would make sense to do these ones, right? Because they're similar, like designed features, sanitary sewer. And I'm going to click OK. To sanitary 2 being merged in. And more or less, sanitary 2 will be merged into sanitary. Okay, so now when I go into tool space, pipe networks, it no longer exists because they are all merged into one, into sanitary. So all we're going to do to end this exercise, I still have one of the sanitary networks. We're basically going to combine. So if I have that one pipe connected, I'm going to say select similar with a right click option. And it selects basically all these pipes in these drawing of this Civil 3D object variety. So we have two networks now. I'm going to make these all one network. There's really no need to have them on separate networks. We're going to merge them all. So that's the goal here. So let's finish that. Let me hit escape to clear that selection set. And let me pick one sanitary sewer pipe once again here. And we'll get our contextual ribbon options queued up. I'm going to merge networks again, and we're going to do similar to what we did. We're going to say let's merge in. Since I picked a pipe in the sanitary network, that is the one we're merging into. Okay, so you got to pick the correct one first is critical in this step. I'm going to say I want to merge into sanitary, the sanitary 3. There we go. It's destination. And now if we go into tool space, that did not quite work. Let me hit refresh. Well, basically they should have merged. We can try it one last time. And I'll say its destination pipe network is sanitary. That time I might have selected the right things. Let's look here. Now I did it. So you sometimes have to hit refresh here in the pipe networks. So you have to pick which one you're going to merge to something else first, and then you have to pick the second thing I didn't do the first time. I had to pick which one to merge it into. So now we have everything merged into one. We'll go into exercise 14.6, editing a pipe network using properties. So using our properties over here when we pick on something. So as we've learned a whole bunch of times in previous Civil 3D objects we've been learning about, there's always a couple ways to get to properties. One way is through the Civil 3D way, or the Civil 3D method. The other way is the AutoCAD method. And we use the Civil 3D method. You generally select the pipe in this case, or structure. Then you click the pipe properties or structure properties in the ribbon. And you can also do this with the right-click method. The other way, is you select the pipe and you right-click, or you go other ways. So we're not unfamiliar with that. We've gotten used to that pretty good by the end of this, by this point in our learning of Civil 3D. So let's just get into it. So we're going to do some editing. We can quickly see what we're going to do on Madison Lane, which is here. And on the profile view, we can see we have a pipe or a structure that is way too low here. So that's what we're going to be controlling, focusing on for now. And I go to this area here, and we're looking at the elevation of the manhole, and it's all over the place. It's really low. We're not in the proper spot. Furthermore, we're talking about this particular grade break label on the profile, and it says the elevation is 180.972. That's basically the elevation that corresponds to the center point of the cul-de-sac, which is also the location of the manhole. So this is the grade, the actual grade of the finished grade surface, elevation-wise. So keep that in mind. Let's click on the left viewport now, and then zoom in and double-click, or not double-click, click the manhole that said located at the center of the Madison Lane cul-de-sac at the end, bulbous end here. And let's pick that manhole. That's our problem child over there in the profile view. And on the Parts Property tab, we're going to go up here, and we're going to go to the Parts Property. So remember, I was saying there's a couple ways, the Civil 3D and AutoCAD way. We can go to it this way a little bit. We can right-click, go to it this way, or up here as well. And also we can do it in Tool Space Prospector as well. So same thing I was talking about at the intro to this section. It's been no different for any other Civil 3D object we've learned about how to get to its properties. Click it again. Going back to this structure, I have this structure selected. Let's go to structure properties here, or we can go do it with our right click options like I just mentioned before. Give it a second to open up, and let's go into, drill into this, and the part properties tab here. We have a lot of information about what goes into this pipe structure, or this structure. Okay. We have a cadre of options here. We have which reference surface and alignment it can have, various rotation angles and elevations of rims and other outlets of the sump where it's inserted, hydraulic properties we won't get into, various things that are grayed out you can't change. You can change the structure to something else possibly, outfalls or inlets, outlets, yada yada yada. You can change different thicknesses of the floors and the frames and diameters of the frame, the cone, the inner structure on the bottom, various things in the geometry you can change. All we're going to change here is we're going to go down a little bit. I have it hidden. On insertion rim behavior, we're going to change this to false. We have it already, so I don't know what it's trying to say there. Here's our rim elevation. Okay. And in this case, I already have these things done. So honestly, I'm in the wrong drawing, so that's interesting. So this is the stuff I was going to change. Let me go back to the correct drawing. I'm in one ahead, editing pipe networks using properties. It takes us right here. Let's do this one more time. And this time I'm going to select the structure now that I'm in the correct drawing. And let's go this method here again. And this one should have stuff that we need to update more correctly. We'll go into the part properties area. We'll say, no, we do not want it to automatically adjust to the surface as false. This is usually pretty handy to leave that it will move when the surface moves. I usually like to leave it on sometimes. And the insertion rim elevation, we'll put it way up to 180.972. I don't know why you go to that level of significant digits, but we're going to do it. We'll hit OK. It'll never be able to be built that accurate in the world with our current methods of construction. But that aside, let me go back to the profile viewport here to the right. And we can see we still have some problems in here. We're going to do some editing further. We basically, all we did was we corrected this last structure here, which is here on the profile. We corrected its rim. We got it sucked up to the surface, but the pipe that connects between these two structures is still way sunk down here at like 0 elevation. So that still drags this profile view way down here. So we're going to fix that soon here. There's a few ways we can go about it, but we're going to go back to the left viewport. Let's select this pipe here. Now I have this pipe selected. We're going to edit and get this fun and games all fixed here. And I'm going to go to pipe properties this time instead of structure properties right here. Open that up. And we're going to get a little more surgical inside of our AutoCAD properties. Basically, this is our really surgical edits. We're learning really the beginning of them here. We'll go into this part properties of this individual one part. And we're going to go to drill into its elevations. So we're going to drill down to, let's cascade this down for now. Actually, we'll need that one. Let's just drill down to its start invert elevation, which is obviously way off. And we're going to change it to something more respectable for the design. And we're going to go to, with the pipe still selected, let me enter the slope of the pipe now. And there's various things you can do in different orders to do these right. This one we're going to say hold the beginning of the pipe, pipe slope, and we're going to hold the start. So we're going to get the slope of negative, so you got to put the negative if you want to go down there. And these effects are much more obvious in the 3D viewport. They get cleaned up here a lot. Let's hit OK first. These should suck down, so those big tall manholes go away. In the profile view, the manholes get to a more respectable depth in the ground to not 0. So we cleaned up a couple of those using pipe properties through Civil 3D and structure properties. Let's hit escape again to clear our selection set. Let's get in our left viewport. Let's select this manhole at the dead end terminus of the bulb of the cul-de-sac. And let's go back to structure properties again to drill into our deep properties of this structure. They open up. And it's already set to 2 feet for the sump depth. Let's go find the sump depth here. I don't really understand this step. It seems like a glitch with AutoCAD that we say 2 there. It recalculates the depth for some reason. I'm not sure. The manhole depth is updated because the apparent change to the sump depth. It triggered a recalculation of the manhole dimensions. So me just psyching it out saying 2 there did that. No idea why that should be relevant to AutoCAD, but it seems like a step to trigger the program to work. Let's go back to the profile view. Let's hit OK for now. Let's look at this profile view. So I could enter this same structure by clicking the structure in the profile view. Let's go back to it again, right click and go to, you can do right click in this circumstance, okay? But I should be able to get to the structure properties through the contextual of the ribbon. Yes, I was able to. So I can get through both the profile view and on the plan view to the same structure properties. Let's just change this sump to 1 foot. Let me apply it so we can see the change. See how it changed there? I was changing the sump depth. That was pretty much just some deeper edits in our structures in our pipe. So now all we've done here is we just kind of shored up the size of our manhole depth. We decreased it so it didn't need to be an undue depth too far down. That's it for this area. We're going to do our final chapter, editing pipe networks via network vistas. Vistas are the next level of editing from grips, then to editing with properties. Now we're going to, learn a way with vistas to edit multiple parts inside the entire network simultaneously. So sometimes that's where the power of that's the main key takeaway of using the pipe network vistas command is to make entire network edits at one time to many parts and structures. Easier said than done sometimes, but let's see what that looks like. So let's get into our final file, editing pipe networks with pipe network vistas. And basically we're going to start similarly. We're going to pick any storm pipe or any structure in the drawing. So we can just start by picking where we left off in this cul-de-sac. And we're going to go right to edit pipe network in the ribbon, in the contextual ribbon, to pipe networks. That opens up our network layout tools, okay? And we're going to go over here to the pipe network vistas here. Don't know why it's grayed out. Another awesomeness of AutoCAD. Let's see here. It maybe doesn't know what is referencing in, so I kick it in the butt here by saying I need a surface to be realized inside of this network layout. So oftentimes you've got to mess with some of this stuff. We're on the sanitary network. That's where you can only edit one network at a time on this tool, of course. So here's the icon in 2022. It's a green dot. Click that. And it demands at this point to select a part, basically any part from the pipe network to edit via the Vista command. Let me select one part from the pipe network. So this is just going into editing it. This isn't quite what I was looking for. There we go. You want this panorama to open up, okay? This is the key. I wasn't having that open up in the first go around. Don't know why. I was doing the same thing. Here it is. You initiate it with this, pipe network vistas. You want to see this. So let's expand some of these. Has our structures in our network. And essentially, we're going to start by segregating a few things to change. We're going to find all items that have the structure called rectangular junction structure NF. Which we don't have. Well, let's go to a different network. We're going to go into the storm pipes. So I'm on the sanitary pipes. That's fine and good. We want to get to these pipes, these storm pipes. I went on the sanitary sewer. So let's close out of this. Let's go to another pipe network, our storm over here. And let's just click on one of these pipes. Missed that step. We'll go to edit pipe network. Okay. Once again, kick it in the butt if you need to with telling it which surface it has to go to. Let's pick row to FG. Let's open up the pipe network vistas here. Give it a moment. The panorama should open up. There it is. Let's pull this description out so we can see the whole structure name. Let's hold Control and left data click these four one at a time if you need to. Okay. And we're going to go right click inside of this now that they're selected, like so. But I have to be up one. I have to be in the column heading. Easy to miss that. Now I say right click and edit. It won't do that if you're down here. Okay. Let's get these caught up again. If you want to, you can grab them this way. You can't right click and get it here. You have to right click on the column description header. Say edit. This is a pretty cool command. You can type in inlet here and say this is what I want the name of all of them to be, and hit enter, and they all change to that. So that's handy. We're going to grab the cylindrical junction structure here, do the same deal. Right click up here, say edit. We're just going to type in manhole. So things like this actually are really nice because it's always going to give its default labelings for whatever structures. This is a quick way, say if you had 50 to 100 of them, this is a really nice tool. And the last structure, we're just going to call it an end wall instead of that long-winded name. So this is a further way to do more deep editing in a panorama setting in Civil 3D, basically. And it's kind of towards the end of our dive into the chapter. So we're only in our structures, but check out over here, we can go to our pipes here in the panorama. I can maybe suck this down a little bit, but let's leave it wide. And now I'm in the pipes for this given network. We move down from the structures, okay. Well, let's try to select all rows with the, how do you say it? Shift, right, left data click. So we want them all selected. And we're going to right click in the style column right there. Okay. It's Civil 3D style. So let's expand that out. It's of this type of style of pipe, right? Well, maybe I want them to look different, to be a different appearance. So let's right click there to do that, and we'll say edit. It's just going to edit the style. I'm going to say, well, I want these to look a little different. These are the Civil 3D styles of how the pipes appear, okay? And I'm going to say see storm, walls, and profile. That'll change some of how they appear. That given style, we'll hit OK. And let's go take a look at what changed. I'm going to cascade this down here. Hold it for now. And if I go to the profile view to the right, basically it changed possibly in that style how they could look in the profile view here in the pipes or in the plan view. In this case, it mostly just changed, as you can see, how the pipes appear in profile view. That took a little while to take. One of them was still thinking. They looked a little different than when you last saw it. They have a more hollow look in appearance. That's it for chapter 14. We'll move into pressure pipes in chapter 15.